A question that many of you Star Wars fans might have is what will happen after Episode 9? What is the path Star Wars will be on, and could we possibly see an Episode 10 in the future of Star Wars? Well, all those questions will be answered right now. Even though many don't really like the new sequel trilogy that is happening right now, it isn't a surprise that mostly everyone is excited for Episode 9 due to the fact that it might be the movie to bring everyone in the fandom together. But what will happen after Episode 9? The simple answer to that is basically Lucasfilm and Disney want to expand the Star Wars universe. What I mean by that is Disney and Lucasfilm are going away from the Skywalker path of the original movies and going more toward a path where they want to explore other characters, stories, and places during the events of the original Star Wars movies. In this video, I'm going to explain all of those series and movies that Disney and Lucasfilm are wanting to create to explain what happens in the Star Wars universe beside the Skywalker lineage. So, let's get into all those right now. The first thing that will happen actually before Episode 9, but will continue after Episode 9, is the new season of Clone Wars. As many of you know, Clone Wars got canceled, I think after the 5th season or 6 seasons, I'm not sure, which aired 12 episodes. But Disney decided to continue Clone Wars due to the fact that all the fans were upset that Dave Filoni, who created the Clone Wars series, wasn't able to properly finish off the series. So Disney had given Dave Filoni to be able to work on a final season to properly finish off the Clone Wars. And Dave Filoni has been working very hard on this final season of Clone Wars. We don't really know what it will be about, except that it will definitely line up with Revenge of the Sith, since we never really got a proper ending of the last season to line up with Revenge of the Sith. And we know right now that Ahsoka Tano is coming back to the series, which is amazing. I love Ahsoka. I am hoping that in this season that it will be completely lined up to the events of what happens in beginning of Revenge of the Sith, which is Anakin killing Dooku and rescuing the Chancellor. That I'm hoping that Dave Filoni lines up everything up to Revenge of the Sith. So the next thing Lucasfilm is planning after Episode 9 is the Mandalorian series. The Mandalorian series will take place after the Return of the Jedi and before The Force Awakens. It will be a 10-part series. It follows the travel of a lone gunfighter in the outer reaches of the galaxy, far from the authority of the New Republic, says Jon Favreau. Which, if you don't know who he is, he basically worked on Elf, Iron Man 2, and many more awesome movies. I really like him. He's an amazing director. So basically, the Mandalorian series will be somewhat of like a Western space type of theme, during the time of when Snoke rises up and the First Order rises as well. I'm actually pretty excited for this new series because it is rumored that this series might continue what happened at the end of Rebels show that previously aired on Disney XD into this new series, since at the end of Rebels, it ended with a cliffhangers about the Mandalorians. And if you haven't watched Star Wars Rebels, I highly recommend watching that show. It's a very interesting show, and if you love Star Wars, it's a show to watch. Another series that will happen, a TV series, is the Cassian Andor series. If you don't remember who that is, Cassian Andor is the character from Rogue One, as you can see on the screen. So Disney is deciding to create a whole series based around this character. The series will be mainly about seeing kind of how the rebels formed and their underground worked and how they grew in numbers in the early days of the Empire. So basically, how the rebels formed. And Diego Luna will be reprising his role as Cassian Andor, since he played Cassian Andor, in Rogue One, which is amazing. So this series will also take place way before A New Hope and maybe even a few months after Revenge of the Sith, because again, this is showing the beginning of the rebels and how they formed. So I am somewhat excited about this. I think that it will be interesting to really see how the rebels worked back in that time and kind of how they were really formed and how they grew in numbers. That I think will be interesting. So now let's talk about the Rian Johnson trilogy films. Now, if you don't already know this, then you have literally been living under a rock. If you don't know, Rian Johnson, the director of the previous Star Wars movie, The Last Jedi, announced that he was going to be creating a whole new trilogy of Star Wars film. I think there are going to be about 6 films, but I'm not completely sure. His trilogy, though, isn't like related to our original movies. His trilogy is going to be very different. It will not be related at all to any of the Skywalker's family drama that we have seen, and it will not connect to any of the other series that I have mentioned. Rian Johnson's goal in this is to create a whole new trilogy that will have the same events as before, but be taken on different perspectives of new characters in different parts of the galaxy. Now you might be like, well, Roop, come on. I mean, that's kind of what all these other series are doing. You just said that Disney wants to take a path away from the Skywalkers. But what Rian Johnson kind of really basically wants to do is rewrite Star Wars in a way of keeping like the light and the dark and like the Jedi. But I don't even know if he's gonna have the same events of what Star Wars, like the Empire rule or the Republic. He might completely change that. He's basically rewriting Star Wars in like a new way without the Skywalkers in it and all the characters we love like Obi-Wan, Yoda, and Han Solo. Like, that's what he wants to do. To me, I think this take is interesting. I think that having the series not connecting so much to the originals might not please everyone. I know it doesn't please me because if any of these series ever connect to like Darth Vader or like Skywalkers, I'm always like, oh my god, that's so cool or something like that. But I kind of like how he's gonna rewrite the trilogy and it being based on different characters that we've never seen before. And that's another thing. These characters are characters that have never been mentioned in comics, that have never been seen before, and he wants to create brand new characters. Let's also talk about the Weiss and Benioff movie series, which if you don't know them, they are the directors of Game of Thrones. Sorry if I butchered their names, but as some of you might know, Game of Thrones is ending this year due to the directors moving on to the Star Wars series. So they have decided to direct a series of Star Wars films that will be based around the Old Republic. If you don't know what the Old Republic is, it's basically the prequel of Phantom Menace. So basically it's a prequel to the prequel, if that makes sense. The Game of Thrones directors want to direct a movie series based on characters that were before Darth Vader, Obi-Wan, Yoda, and the Galactic Republic. So before their time, maybe not before Yoda, who knows. And maybe they might create like this new series relate to Lord Sidious and how he became Lord Sidious, or kind of more on Snoke's backstory, kind of like hinting at that, or even like Yoda's backstory, who knows. In my opinion, I think that this new films will do pretty well. I think these two will do a fantastic job on this new trilogy because both of them are very good storytellers. Even though I have never seen Game of Thrones ever, I heard that they are amazing at just storytelling, and that's why Game of Thrones is so popular. So they could do this with Star Wars and create the story of the Old Republic, kind of before Anakin Skywalker, before the Galactic Republic, the Separatists. I think that they can do a really good job in making these films very interesting for fans, and I think they can bring a lot to the Star Wars franchise. So lastly, the last thing that we have heard is after episode 9, we might be getting some more Star Wars stories like Solo and Rogue One. Now, this is not confirmed that Disney and Lucasfilm will be doing these types of movies again, due to the fact that Solo and Rogue One didn't do that well at all. But Disney might be wanting to do more, and Disney's planning to do one more of these Star Wars stories that is supposedly supposed to be around Obi-Wan and Yoda, but it again still remains a mystery to everyone. They haven't even been mentioning it. They said they canceled it, and now they said that they might be doing it again, but no one knows. I just think they do one about Obi-Wan and Yoda. I think that would be awesome. Like, I don't know what's Obi-Wan's backstory. I kind of know more about his master Qui-Gon's backstory, but not Obi-Wan, and it will be very interesting to see his backstory. So now that I've explained all these TV series and movies confirmed to happen after Star Wars Episode 9, there is probably one question you all might be still asking. Will there be an Episode 10? The simplest way I could answer that is yes and no. It still needs to be determined. For right now, Disney is saying no. As some of you might know, that Disney is marketing Episode 9 as the end of the Skywalkers, which basically means that they might end the Skywalker line and continue on a different path away from the Skywalkers, which is kind of what this whole video was about, showing that. I think that they want to adventure away from the original movies and from characters that we know and focus on other characters in the Skywalkers. And I'm not talking about just like Skywalkers like Luke and Leia. What I mean by that is like Obi-Wan, Yoda, like all those characters. But that doesn't mean that they can't create Episode 10. If you think back to Episode 6 time or the prequels time, when those movies came out, many thought that that was the last movie, that Episode 6 was the last Star Wars movie to be ever created, because I don't think Disney ever said anything. But then Disney announced a few years ago that they were making a sequel. So it could still happen. I think that if these TV series and movies that I explained in this video in Episode 9 do really well as Disney and Lucasfilm expected they would, I think they will most likely then create Episode 10. But if they did create Episode 10, it probably won't be until 2025 or 2030 or something like that. Like I said, right now, Disney and Lucasfilm are focusing away from the Skywalkers, away from the originals, and they want to fill in as many gaps in the Star Wars universe as possible. I think Disney's trying to make Star Wars very similar to the way the Marvel Cinematic Universe is like, where they tell different character stories and then have them all meet up in a movie or something. But in this case, they're doing it in reverse, since them all meeting up is like the original movies, the prequel, the originals, and the sequels. But now they're going to show individual stories and show other people's stories during these times. Overall, Disney and Lucasfilm are focusing away from the Skywalkers and more on other characters during these wartime stories. This doesn't mean that Star Wars Episode 10 can't happen, but based on how the fandom is, don't get your hopes up. Don't be thinking like there will be an Episode 10, because most likely it won't happen, and if you anticipate it not happening, you don't get your hopes up. So that is all for today, guys. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to our channel and like this video, and comment down below any questions you have about what is supposed to be happening after Episode 9, because I'll answer them, because I have a lot of knowledge on this because I researched so much. And don't forget to have a magical day.